to IHA's Webinar Wednesday. Today we will be hearing from Hugh Rushing, who is with the Cookware Manufacturers Association for 24 years. Hugh has been a great partner to IHA, and this is his 5th webinar with IHA. Today, Hugh will be talking about what's cooking, an update on trends, techniques, and consumers on cookware and bakeware. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our partner, Hugh Rushing. Hugh?
Thanks very much, Jenny, and thanks, Jenny and Debbie and all the staff of the IHA for once again putting this webinar on and organizing it. As Jenny mentioned, it is the 5th time that we've had the opportunity to talk with you about trends in cookware, and we look forward to a profitable few minutes ahead, learning some more about cookware, how cookware is doing. It's an amazing category, we think, and I often call it the Energizer Bunny of housewares, because year in and year out, cookware and bakeware provides an essential service to the consumer, obviously in preparing their food, and thanks to innovation and great retail partners like those on the line today, the industry is in great shape and continues to do sort of great things. Just so you'll know a little bit about me, and if you've been on one of these before, I apologize for repeating anything, but for 15 years prior to joining the CMA 24 years ago, I was in the manufacturing business and helped market cookware and bakeware. I joined the CMA in January, right at the Houseware Show of 1992. Between 1985 and 1997, I also served as an adjunct professor of marketing and management at our local university, the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And in my younger days, I had experience in retail. So I have a particular affinity for people that are in retail. It can be a tough way to make a living, but it can be a very rewarding living, and I admire those that have been successful at it. In a word now, the Cookware Association's mission and who we serve. The CMA promotes the design, manufacture, sale, use, and servicing of cookware and bakeware in optimal and appropriate ways through quality sharing, quality standards development, information sharing, educational outreach, and impartial communication to members of the association, to their retail trade partners, and to consumers. Some people often say that, well, the CMA just promotes high-end cookware, and that's really not true. We think there's a place in the marketplace from everything from modestly priced wares that might be sold in a dollar store all the way up to the high end. We do think there's certain minimum levels of quality and safety, obviously, that ought to be incorporated. And we find that those can be done even in modestly priced wares as well. Our members in the CMA, and we have 36 members, they produce branded cookware and distribute it in the United States and in North America. And some of the brands that you can see on the screen there, All-Clad, Trementina, Bradshaw, Nordic Ware, Wilton in the bakeware space, Lodge in the cast iron category, Crusade in both cast and stainless. A complete list of our membership is listed on this slide that you can see and is available at our website at cookware.org. And we invite you to take a look at that and see who our members are. Let's move now to market intelligence, something that the Cookware Association has gathered and reported on. We've been doing statistical analysis for our members and for the industry in general for more than 84 years. And the way that we calculate our figures and the way that we take a look at the marketplace is by our members reporting their factory shipments and monitoring each and every import record for cookware and bakeware through subscriptions to the Foreign Trade Division of the Census Bureau. Our statistics represent shipments to all portions of the market, and not just a single or a few channels of distribution, but this includes all the way that people end up with cookware in the United States. Let's take a look starting with aluminum. For the full year of 2014, the aluminum category overall was down 3% in dollars over 2013, but thus far in 2015, aluminum cookware is up 9.7% over where it was last year. So compared to 2013 shipments, it's up 6%, up almost 10% over what it was in the full year of 2014. In the stainless steel category, and this includes all manner of stainless steel, it includes multi-ply product, it includes product with an encapsulated bottom, which most of those bottoms are done these days, and a single sidewall. The bottom could also be brazed on, and it also includes typically deep stock pots that are single wall throughout. For the full year of 2014, stainless steel cookware, $762 million and up 3%. The stainless steel cookware so far in 2015 is up 8% over where it was in 2014. Typo there on the bottom arrow, should be 2014. In short, we note in the aluminum category a slight decline in 2014 in the thicker gauge polished and natural, and in the lighter gauges of colored materials. Stainless steel down just slightly in the multi-ply product category. Mid-priced segments, and typically those are the ones with the cap bottom, that category increased somewhat. Cast iron and porcelain on steel or copper. This is a category that's, some people say, well, why do you have a catch-all category like that? That's because the number of players, particularly in raw cast iron, is limited, and we don't want to disclose any particular members' shipments. So we do combine the cast iron, porcelain on steel, and copper categories. For the full year of 2014, they were up 7%, and so far in 2015, they were up 19% over where they were at this time in 2014. For the full year of 2014, Bakeware was flat at around $476 million, and that figure is at factory invoice. So far in 2015, Bakeware is up 14% over where it was last year. Kitchenware, which is everything from colanders to mixing bowls, these sorts of things which aren't designed to prepare food so much as prepare food to be cooked. $466 million last year, up 13%, and so far this year in 2015, 26% over last year's figures. Tea kettles, always an odd category, and that's one of the reasons that we count them separately. They tend to be very cyclic year over year. In 2014, they were down 21% from the year. This year, they're up 6%. We see tea kettles do this every other year. It's like they come in and it takes 18 months to get the inventory work down, and so we have a big year one year, a soft year the next year, and then it tends to return on alternating years. Interestingly enough, private label and imported cookware shipments, by our estimation, declined in 2014 about 4% over that of 2013. And as you can imagine, China, by a large margin, remains the major producer of imported cookware, bakeware, and kitchenware. In the first 6 months of 2015, imports were up 5% over 2014 in dollars and up 14% in units. The average price per unit was down 7.8%. That indicates that China is increasingly producing lower quality wares where labor is not a significant contributor to costs. The labor market in China has gotten much tighter. Chinese producers continue to face serious wage pressures, and we understand occasional employee unrest. We expect continued reshoring of more lines, particularly those that have higher labor content, as a result of wage demands. We're also seeing some low-end manufacture moving out of China into countries like Vietnam and into India as well. Also of note, branded shipments for 2015 are growing at double-digit rates, and that's a development that we have not seen in many years. Retailers in 2015, many of them have widened their assortment. We had good sell-through at the end of 2014. That helped this year, which began strong right out of the box with January, which typically is a slow month for manufacturers. Retailers seem determined not to miss out this year. The National Retail Federation predicting a 3.7% rise in holiday spending. Online sales are growing. They're predicted to be up 14% this year. And we think one thing which is really impacting the category for 2015 are lower gas prices, because that is directly putting more income into consumer pockets. I'll pause there for just a second and take a sip of water here and see if Jenny has had anybody ask any questions thus far.
Oh, hi Hugh. We do. They are saying right now the slides are not changing. What slide? I don't know. They're having some difficulty on the other side, they're saying, the attendees.
They're changing on this screen here.
Yeah, and ours too. So what slide is he on right now? What slide number are you on? Okay, some other people are saying they're changing for them, so maybe it's just that particular person.
Could be a slow thing. My slide says breaking down consumer preferences.
Yep, I think it's that individual, so we're good.
Okay.
As far as any other questions at the moment, we do not have, but once we do, I will let you know.
Great. When we get to the next sort of natural break, I'll ask again.
Okay, thank you.
2015. Aluminum cookware in 2015, so far this year, and this basically is through the month of September, anodized cookware is 37% of the dollar shipments. A colored exterior is 56% of the dollar shipments. Polished exterior aluminum, 8%. Also, nonstick is found on about 80% of the dollars in 90% of the units for aluminum cookware. Stainless steel cookware through 9 months of 2015. Multiply, anywhere from 3-ply to 9-ply, is 64% of the dollars, only a third of the units. The fabbed bottom, encapped bottom, or brazed bottom, 33% of the dollars and 58% of the units. So it's the leader as far as volume is concerned. And single wall, 3% of both the dollars and the units. As you can imagine, Multiply much more challenging to manufacture and much more expensive to manufacture compared to fab bottom products. Bakeware in 2015, evenly split between metallic and glass as materials. So far this year, the popularity in bakeware, cake pans at 27% of the market out of 100%. Cookie sheets 19%, muffin pans 12%, followed then by loaf pans, meat and roasting pans, pie pans, and then miscellaneous bakeware follows. But as again, and this has held true for a number of years, cake pans and cookie pans and muffin pans command the majority of the bakeware which is sold. As far as 2014 was concerned, let's take a look at the channels for cookware mass merchants, including clubs. 32% of the products sold through mass merchants. That was down 5% from 2013. Big box stores, including outlet and gourmet shops, 20%, up 2% from 2013. Traditional department stores, 9%, up a little bit, along with moderate department stores. Moderate being the Sears and Penny of the world, 9%. Odd markets, military, direct sales, 9%. Internet merchants, and when we use that term, we mean those are companies that buy from our manufacturers and sell directly online, 9.5%. That does not include a brick and mortar retailer who also has an online presence. That was up 0.5%. Outliers for cookware are grocery, drug, and television. For bakeware, it's a little bit different. Mass merchants, including the clubs, 28%. Big box stores, 22%. National moderate department stores, 11%. Strong growth in the grocery and drug trade, 18%. Traditional department stores, 4%. Internet, only 4% for bakeware. We find more traditional and older consumers buying bakeware. Price points continue to go up. Quality bakeware greatly exceeds the thin and cheap bakeware of the past. There have been a lot of growth in the grocery and drug trade with an offering of more or less impulse items and more quality items hung near the baking preparation aisle in grocery stores and in drug stores as well. What are some of the factors which drive demand? And we base this again on our 83-year history of analyzing not only the statistics of the industry, but also the economy in general. One of the major drivers for cookware sales is new household formation. About 117 million households in the U.S., and about 1.1 million of those are formed annually. This year we've had more new households formed in any year since 2007. Two-thirds of these, this is an interesting statistic which I think has a lot to do with bakeware as well. Two-thirds of these new household formations are being formed by seniors 65 to 74, the fastest growing segment of the population. And only 13% are created by 25 to 34 years old. And people say, well, you know, seniors are old, they don't buy anything. Well, believe me, when they close out a house they've lived in Cleveland for 40 years and they move to Florida, I can guarantee you they're buying some new cookware and some new bakeware for their retirement home. The other driver, number 2, is new home construction. And as of September of 2015, annualized new home construction was at almost 750,000 units. That's the highest it's been in 7 years. People have a new home constructed. They often buy new furnishings, including cookware and kitchenware and bakeware to go in it. Substantial remodeling, particularly of the kitchen or the eating area, is another driver for demand. The remodeling marketing index grew 5.5% in the second quarter of this year. That's its best showing since before the housing boom of early 2007. The number of projects this year should hit 11.1 million in total. And then finally, the other factor which drives demand, general economic uncertainties. I translate that to mean reduced eating out means more eating in, and more eating in means more cookware and bakeware is purchased. Some of the statistics that we look at, this is some interesting stuff that comes out of the Federal Reserve St. Louis office. They do a lot of statistical analysis. This shows the moving average of initial claims for unemployment. And you can see the big spike there as we had the recession in 2009, 2010, and then a very strong downward trend as we've gone forward into 2015. Here's the unemployment rate, which you can imagine the more people that are unemployed, the more people are unemployed, that affects housing starts, that affects new household formations, and as you can see, the civilian unemployment rate has dropped now back down to around 5%. Non-farm payrolls, all employees in thousands, you see it peaked there about 2008 at 138 million. It got back there in 2014. Now in 2015, we're up above 142 million of people that are total non-farm payrolls. And the other factor which drives demand, and this is one that's kind of interesting, I've always thought, is entertaining. The more entertaining a consumer does in their home, the more likely they are to buy and expand and use cookware and bakeware in the home. It's a social product that contributes to the sociability of the human species. You might ask, how do we track entertaining? Well, we found a very interesting thing, and we've been following this for years. The employees of retail, trade, and beer, wine, and liquor stores in California, it's always an interesting way to look at this, because you figure the more entertaining is going on, the more chances that wine, beer, and liquor are being sold. And as you can see, that has risen strongly from just over 12,000 people in 2012 or 2010 to well over 16,000. So we think that indicates a rising demand for entertainment and a rising demand for cookware. Here's some top consumer reasons for cookware purchases. Our source for this is Good Housekeeping magazine. Our friend there, Sharon Frank, who runs the Good Housekeeping laboratories and kitchen laboratories, has shared this information with us. And these are unaided answers from consumers. 58% shop for cookware because they think their cookware is worn out. 34% because a specific recipe needs a pan. Number 3, the old cookware just doesn't look good. A lot of people hang their cookware in the kitchen, and it gets dirty enough looking and worn out looking, and they think of improving the looks of their kitchen by purchase of cookware. And that goes right along with it to improve the look of the kitchen, which indicates to me that at least 32% of the people have their cookware hanging out where their neighbors and their friends can see it. A new range purchase drives only about 3%. You would think it would be more than that. We get more inquiries than anything else from consumers about proper cookware for glass ranges, which obviously are what's selling the most these days in the range business. But apparently that doesn't drive a whole lot of new kitchen purchases. And then kitchen remodeling at 2% was unaided for a small percentage, which really doesn't surprise me, because you figure in any given year there's probably only about 2% of the people that are doing kitchen remodeling. We think of consumer segments in two sort of ways. One consumer wants cooking to be easy and convenient. For instance, the time-stressed mother or the family with 4 or 5 children. Other people, the other set of the segment, wants to build skills and explore new dishes. Cooking really is a hobby and part of the lifestyle, and we think it's helpful for retailers to consider both types when they're making their retail buying decisions. Strategies for the time-pressed consumer obviously is the time-saving benefits and ease of use for those that are time-stressed. And then for those that are exploring cookware as a hobby, focus on building skills and the social aspects of cooking to reach that consumer. Here's a great statistic that I've had in this slide deck for a couple of years now. It's interesting, if you go back and look at the rate of sales and the number of households, in a 10-year period, 90% of the consumers will replace their cookware. If we have roughly 115 million households in the U.S., that means that over 10 million homes are going to replace their cookware each year. And for standalone gourmet stores and small gourmet chains, this translates into around 200,000 replacement buys and an estimate of over $95 million at retail. One of the things the association, I'll stop here and take a sip of water and ask Jenny if the last slides have generated any questions from the audience.
Hugh, no, there are not any questions at this time. Many people have been asking, and I'll say it once again, if in fact you would like a copy or to view the webinar again, you could go to www.housewares.org in the Knowledge Center. Okay, Hugh.
Good. Okay, very good. I will remind people too that this will be available later on, and it can be streamed from the IHA website at housewares.org.
Oh, Hugh, we have a question.
Okay.
Is there not a different sector, the professional chef that cooks at home?
Well, most professional chefs, we think, do most of their cooking at work. There are some professional chefs that cook at home, but a lot of people think of the professional or restaurant trade as being much larger than it really is. When you think about it, in your neighborhood of 100 houses, there might be a couple of restaurants that would serve that many houses. So as a percentage, the retail consumer of cookware is by far the largest portion of this, and not the professional chef. I know professional chefs cook at home. I always just figure they stick something in their bag along with their knives, and they bring that home and use it in just like they use it in their restaurant. And cooks in a professional, a high volume restaurant, frankly, cooks look at cookware as a consumable commodity. They beat it up, they bang it up, they overheat it, they stress it out, and if it stops performing, they throw it into the garbage can and get another one. If they don't take care of their knives that way, but they surely abuse their cookware. And I've been in enough professional kitchens to have seen it happening. So there's a large replacement cycle in the trade for commercial kitchens and for cafes and for restaurants. But I don't know that it's a big enough segment that you could really target that. Obviously, a lot of manufacturers like to have endorsements by professional chefs, and obviously there's money involved in that, royalties, and chefs lend their names to products and keep up with the quality of that. And that's certainly part of the marketing schema for cookware manufacturers.
Great.
Hope that answers that question.
We have another one. What is the impact of ceramic in the U.S. versus 2014 in comparison to Europe?
I'll get to that in just a moment. I have a slide on that and some information, but I'll get to that. I don't want to anticipate that. I'll answer that. I trust I'll answer that in the next few slides.
Perfect. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. There we go. One of the studying at the CMA for the last year is the Millennial Consumer. And we find some differences in the Millennial Consumer compared to previous generations, the baby boomers, the Gen Xers. And we had, in fact, at our annual meeting this past spring, we had some folks in to talk about millennials and cooking. One of the big things is it's about equal male and female when it comes to the role of cooking. 40% consider food an adventure. They would be in that second category that we talked about, not the time-stressed one, but the one that's seeking an adventure in cooking. They're big readers of product labels. They often make the decisions based on emotion, though. They tend to purchase frozen and prepackaged foods that are healthy and then add some additional fresh ingredients. More often to be vegetarian. 18% are either fully or partially vegetarian. They're big into sauces and enhanced flavors. They identify less with brands unless the brand enhances their own image. You know, it's sort of the, you know, people that trade at Trader Joe's in the grocery field. Trader Joe's is what, 85 or 90% private label products. The millennial identifies with Trader Joe's, and the Trader Joe's could put anything they wanted to on the private label, and they would still identify with it. They're savvy with social media. We know about that, but they are turned off when companies try to communicate via the channels in, let's say, kind of boneheaded sort of ways, which we hear examples of that every week. Millennials value firms that seek their input, stand behind their products, which is a plus for branded wares, we believe. Millennials are invested in learning to cook for themselves. They see it as a talent and a way to impress themselves, express themselves, and impress others. So kind of some interesting thoughts about the millennial consumer. We also have the LOHAS consumer, and we're indebted to this little piece of the puzzle from the National Sanitary Foundation, NSF. LOHAS is an acronym for Lifestyles of Healthy and Sustainable Living. LOHAS consumers are drawn towards products that are environmentally conscious and sustainable. A lot of people are into this. 22% of the consumers consider themselves LOHAS. Another 21% are a phrase called naturalites. So right there you've got 43% of the consumers that are sort of in the category that are very intentionally involved in healthy eating, healthy cooking, doing for themselves, being independent. Then you get over into the area where people are either conventional, some people are all for sustainable solutions, but they don't want to work for them. You know, they'd love to be locavores, but they're not willing to plant their own tomatoes, I guess, is how we look at those. But it's interesting that LOHAS consumers are heavily into the early adoption. And if they get behind a new product or a different product in the marketplace, they can really come together to drive that. 64% of the LOHAS consumers consider themselves early adopters, and the balance of them fall either in the early majority or the innovators. So this is another reason to focus on these influential consumers. Okay, trends in cookware. We're going to get to that ceramic question in just a minute. Non-stick improvements, as you are probably well aware, more durable. All that we are aware of in the U.S. now is made without PFOA, extends the desire of consumers for healthy cooking without grease. We see a trend for vintage looks, designs and pastel colors from the 50s through the 70s are making a comeback with a modern convenience, and millennials love the look. It reminds them, as someone said, of their grandparents' kitchen, which is kind of hard to believe, but it's true, I believe. Color revolution underway as brighter colors allow for an update without high cost, and the colors are also much more color fast than they were, less likely to fade coming out of the dishwasher. Cast iron continues a remarkable resurgence, both raw and porcelain or colored product. There's even the introduction, I'm sure you've all heard of rust-resistant iron. There's also an introduction of rust-resistant steel cookware coming as well into the marketplace. Channel changes, brand blurring, traditional brands spreading up and down the price point range. That's a challenge for both retailers and brands to come up with ways to protect your positions. Of course, channel changes. Amazon sells everything. Some gourmet chains creating their own brands with private labels to avoid comparison shopping. Some manufacturers making it easier to do that. Focus on the growth of online selling. Our thought about that is don't skimp on your website or risk losing customers, because a lot of time consumers shop on the web before they actually come to the store. Supermarkets are growing more sophisticated with cross-merchandising opportunities for cookware producers and for selling cookwares. Consumer preferences and retailing strategies to support those. They want to feel the product. The strategy there, display the cookware outside of the box at the same height as an average kitchen counter, typically 36 inches. They want to feel that product. They want to heft it. They seek information. Train your sales staff to prompt for and answer questions. We have a resource on our website called Buyers Learning Tools. It has 9 different topics. Starts out with cooking methods, moves through materials and coatings and manufacturing practices, handles and how they're attached, covers correct labeling, covers and lids, and some other issues that I think any retail salesperson should be familiar with. This is just a quick snapshot. Do your salespeople know handles and why handles are differently configured and how they're actually placed on the pan and what differences it makes. you see one of the illustrations that we have from those buyer's tools. Those are available for download. They can be downloaded and opened at your retail salesperson's convenience, and they can work their way through. It's a self-guided sort of course in cookware and bakeware. Number 3, consumers seek affirmation. You can build their confidence. We say good cooking is a combination of the right tools and fresh foods with simple techniques, along with instructions and encouragement, and retailers have all 3 of these abilities. Research shows the ranking of what matters to consumers. The first thing they want to know is the material. The second is the price. The third is the brand. And the fourth is the appearance of the product. You would think appearance would be much higher than it is, but material is the most important thing. Cookware turnoffs to consumers. Sticky food, that's number 1. Number 2, handles get loose. And that's one reason your salespeople should read up on handles and know how to talk about that intelligently to the consumer. A handle which gets hot. They all get hot, and we tell people there's no such thing as a true stay cool handle, but some get hotter than others. Consumers don't like product that's hard to clean, and they really don't like things that has poor cooking performance. Non-stick coatings, better than ever. Longer lasting, more scratch and heat resistance than they've ever been. Most of the concerns about PFOA that arose about 10 years ago really have not penetrated. Ceramic non-sticks, sort of a mixed bag here. The traditional non-sticks are now not made with PFOA. 25% of the market is what we estimate that the ceramic non-stick has. The growth is slowing in the U.S. The rate of growth is slowing. And in some markets, particularly in the European Union, ceramic non-stick is declining. Staining a problem with light-colored ceramics is a consumer turnoff. I know there are products out there that claim won't stain. Sooner or later, all light-colored ceramics will stain unless you bathe it in bleach between each use. The other challenge with ceramics for a lot of consumers that we talk to, about half of them are turned off by the failure to release food in nearly as long a way as traditional non-sticks do. Here's some of the non-stick improvements that people see in ceramics. This is unaided sort of stuff. You have to treat it and season it. You won't hold seasoning. You have to use oil with cooking with it. Foods begin to stick even with hand washing, and I can't fry eggs without having them stick. Quality of manufacturing has increased. That's another advantage in materials and coatings. Here's a good housekeeping analysis of what consumers wrote about their cookware. And this is one of those interesting things where you take responses and you size the size of the word based on their response. And you'll note that quality and durability and performance outweigh price and size and weight. A lot of people think weight is very important. Some people say health is terribly important. Some people say safety is important. But consumers in unaided communication about cookware rank quality, durability, and performance ahead of those other categories. The value equation has increased for cookware producers. There are more options than ever. More manufacturers have taken a niche position. We have more brands of cookware available in the United States than we've ever had. I would say on the order of perhaps 75 or 80 distinct brands. Looking toward the future, what's the crystal ball look like? Traditional non-sticks are not going to be challenged until ceramic food release attributes match traditional materials, and they aren't there yet, but we think they may get there. Made in USA, bigger than ever, more U.S.-made product as manufacturers are returning to domestic manufacturing where the labor content is the difference between the United States and other countries is much narrower than it used to be. A wider array of worldwide quality brands are in the U.S. Again, Europeans, very stagnant economy. They see the U.S. as a growth market. due to the stagnation of their own economies. And really more non-comparable offerings. In other words, getting your own custom line of cookware or private label is much easier than it used to be. The requirements manufacturers have are not as strenuous as they used to be due to flexible and lean manufacturing. And we see less emphasis on celebrity endorsements. Very big a few years ago. We continue to see that decline a bit. Here's some resources that you may find helpful from the association. We have a brand new, redesigned, totally redesigned website with a section specifically for retailers. Very simple navigation. You simply click on the skillet with your category on it. Takes you to your own home page with all of the resources gathered in one place for you. We continue to have our blog, cookwareandbakeware.org, which we invite you to examine as we periodically write about cookware, cooking, and related. We have our Ask the Experts for consumers. We answer questions for retailers as well as consumers. All you have to do is click, an email contact form comes up, shoots it straight to us. Most of those questions we get answered usually within an hour of when they're sent to us. Our guide to cookware and bakeware, which the CMA has had for a long time, has been rewritten and relaid out. It's now online and available directly from the website as a PDF file. Very easy to download and read that. About 100 pages of great information that really takes you through from the basic ways that food is transformed with heat all the way up to standard sizes, measurements, and nomenclature. Very interesting for people. The CMA continues to offer seminars and training like this one, but we're willing to travel, come see your organization if we could have a chance to get in front of your folks and to train them in ways. We're always happy to do that, subject to time and travel constraints. Can't get everywhere, can't be two places at once, but we do our best. Also at trade shows like the IHA show in March and Beyonce, which of course is in February over in Frankfurt, Germany. So now time for questions, and if you don't want to ask a public question, you would like to ask a private question, you can send that to me at hrushing@cookware.org, and we'll check with Jenny and see if she has any more questions that have come in.
Yes, we do, Hugh. The first question, for the beer wine segment, what area of beverages has been growing the most? Homebrew, craft brews, or distilleries?
Well, I'm not an expert on this. I'm only a consumer, and hopefully not too much of a consumer, but I think the growth obviously has to be in craft malted beverages like beers and ales. It's exploded. This is why you see the proposed merger from the big brewers, because they see this as a real threat, I think, to their livelihood. People are into what I think of as high-test beers. Every city now, the city that we're in, Birmingham, Alabama, 5 years ago, we had a couple of microbreweries. I think we have now north of 15 or 16, and these people are beginning to be able to can and bottle in sufficient quantities to get retail distribution. So I think that's that's the biggest growth area in that.
Great. Our next question, what is the percentage split between the consumer segments that like to cook as a hobby versus Malta Larson, the consumer looking to simply get food on the table? I'm sorry, a hobby versus the consumer looking to simply get food on the table.
We think the time-stressed consumer is about 2/3 of the market, and the hobbyist, and I don't use that word negatively, I mean semi-pro, maybe it's a better word, is about 1/3 of that. However, I think what we also find is that 1/3 spends a lot more money per person than does this time-stressed consumer. So the split dollar-wise is probably much closer to being 50-50.
Okay. The next question, how are you defining a millennial consumer?
Well, that's a good question because you can't really get agreement between people. I mean, we had 3 different speakers on millennials, and they all had a slightly different definition of that. But I would say, in general, the millennial consumer is considered someone who is between the ages of 21 and 35. That's probably, I think, the simplest way to define that. Typically, a person, the college people obviously are millennials, and some of them are under 21, but most college kids are not establishing households unless they're doing it with mom, dad's money, and they're not doing a whole lot of cooking until they get out of school. So that's the closest definition I can think of. It used to be a segment that a lot of consumer research talked about, the 18 to 34-year-olds, and I would say millennials are generally that, but they tend to skew a little bit older at the beginning of the segment.
Great. What materials are included in the tea kettle category? Glass,
that's all sorts of metal tea kettles. We don't keep up with ceramic tea kettles. That's a very small percentage of the market. It's typically stainless steel is the base material, and either polished or obviously with colors applied. There are some, almost all tea kettles obviously have to be stainless steel so they won't rust on the inside when you boil water in them. But so it's metal tea kettles, and we split up. We count tea kettles by decorated and non-decorated. And if it's basically a shiny, bright tea kettle, that's a plain one. And if it's got color on it, we call that decorated.
Okay, great. What about silicone bakeware as opposed to metal or glass in terms of popularity and market share?
Market share is very small. We think it's probably down under 5% now for silicone. It was very hot for a couple of years. The color pulled it into a lot of shelves. The color pulled it off those shelves into the consumer's kitchen. But with a couple of exceptions, our research and our discussions with consumers lead us to believe it didn't get used very much. The basic challenge being the fact that it needed to be reinforced or be placed on a cookie sheet before you put it in the oven, particularly if you had a lot of liquid batter involved, because obviously the product deforms when you pick it up. Also, challenges in cleaning, I think, maybe turn some consumers off because it does release food to a certain extent, but if you don't keep it really precisely clean, it gets real sticky real quick. So we don't even think of that as much of a subcategory any longer.
Great. And our last question, what about the baby boomers? Largest segment with most disposable income.
Yes, and the baby boomers now are reaching that golden retirement age, and you noted that they're #1 in household formation. They still are incredibly influential in the marketplace. They have the highest disposable income. They just, and I'm in that category, and I look in the mirror and I realize that the hotshot hipster gets up in the morning and he doesn't think about what I'm looking for, but I've got more money than he's got. So I think the baby boomers are one of those sort of neglected segments in marketing, not just in the kitchen department, but a lot of other places too. I've sort of despair these days of finding a pair of pants that doesn't make me look like Pee Wee Herman. I think it's a big segment, an important segment, and I think people should not ignore it and should think about that. And I think particularly ergonomic designs that are easy to handle and quality product that weighs less is going to be an important thing for those baby boomers as they get older and as they retire to Florida and start stocking those nice new homes they're buying down there.
Okay. Are consumers' needs currently met in available bakeware?
Well, I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. I'm not sure exactly how to answer that question. Bakeware consumers tend to be older and more traditional consumers, once again, hearkening back to the baby boomer generation. The older consumer tends to bake more than the younger consumer does. You know, and I think the quality level and increase in the quality level in bakeware over the last 4 or 5 years is a reflection of the older consumer and their ability to pay more and to see the value in, let's say, a $10 cookie sheet as opposed to a $3 cookie sheet that warps every time you use it. So I do think that there's an effort, particularly to upscale the quality of bakeware to meet the needs for the consumer.
Well, that is it.
Well, let me just say thank you to everyone who's attended this. Appreciate it very much. Again, we're here for you. If we can help you at any time, that email is good. Send us an email, give us a phone call. More than happy to talk with you. And once again, a deep nod of appreciation and applause for the IHA and for Jenny Costello in helping us get all this together to you.
Well, thank you, Hugh, once again for your annual webinar. I mean, it's the highest attended webinar that IHA has. And once again, if all of you would like to, or any of you would like to download Hugh's webinar, it is at www.housewares.org in the Knowledge Center. For those of you who have any other questions, feel free to contact Hugh directly. And once again, Hugh, thank you very much for all of your efforts in helping IHA. Have a great day, everyone.
Okay, thank you.